So as I was preparing this inspirational moment today, I was coming up with this title in my mind, and at first I was going to call this the Holiday Survival Kit. And I thought the word survival, to me, the first vision that comes in my mind is watching the end of the movie Titanic when they're on the life rafts and some people have life preservers and everyone's hanging on for dear life, and I'm like, that's not the word I want to use. So I changed this to the Holiday Best Version of You Kit. Now, I was struggling with coming up with ideas of how I would go about this talk today, so there was one specific moment that happened over the past 3 days that really stuck in my mind. On Christmas Day, I was preparing with my husband to host 13 people for Christmas dinner, including my mom, my sister that's in town with my nephews, my local sister, and my other niece that lives out of town also, and her fiance. But as we're scrambling to, clean the house, make sure everything's just right and perfect, I had this vision of, hey, it's, 60 degrees outside, whatever it was, let's put out a fire pit. And I guess I had this vision of everybody sitting around the campfire holding hands and having a really great time. And as I'm carrying it with my husband, the other side of my mind was like, what in the world are you doing? Why didn't you think of this a week ago? Why are you carrying a fire pit out when you still have to get everything ready for the guests to come? And it got me thinking about 3 words that I want you to think about for this next year. The 3 words are going to be words, habits, and opportunities. So the first word that I was thinking about was the expectations I had around, everybody's going to be outside and everyone's going to be around this fire. Well, as it turns out, nobody ever went to the fire. I think it was for me to sit in front of that fire as people were, getting ready to come. And it gave me a sense of gratitude because it was just 6 years ago that I moved back to St. Louis from Chicago, and at that point I was renting a smaller house. It was that moment of, am I going to stay here for 3 years? Am I going to move? And then moving and getting a new husband, which is great. But I now have a place where I can host people and where we can have a party and where it's not tight and we're trying to, get around each other. So I had this sense of gratitude. So the first thing I invite you to do is exchange your expectations for appreciation. Because in that split moment, I thought about the expectations I had about the fire pit, but then I was like, I'm just grateful that I can do this, that we can have a fire, whether people stand around it or they don't stand around it. The other word that I want you to think about is choose a word for the year. So last year, I chose the word intention, and I've had this on my desk for almost 365 days a year, and I'm not going to read this whole piece, but just my word for 2025 was intention. It's about living with purpose and clarity. It's a commitment to aligning your actions with your values, goals, ensuring that every choice reflects who you truly are. For women, intention means being mindful of where your energy goes and making decisions that honor your priorities, because we women sometimes like to take care of everybody and do everything for everyone else but ourselves. So my word for this year is faith. And faith is, I looked it up on the iPhone Google Dictionary, and faith is really about having an inner knowingness and having complete confidence in somebody or something. What will your word be for 2026? Begin to think about that. The second word I want to share with you is habits. Now, I love how Lena already talked about New Year's resolutions. To me, New Year's resolutions is like all the things I'm going to stop doing. And, we all know the statistics by, Mom was saying that, I guess January 14th is what, Quitters Day?
National Quitters.
National Quitters Day. By that day, you've already given up on the resolutions. So instead of resolutions, what are some of the habits? What are some of the starts and stops I'm going to put in my life? Because the way that I often talk to and coach and say this is, our thoughts drive our habits drive our actions, and our actions drive our results in the end. So think about the habits that you'd like to see different. Last but not least, what are the opportunities that you would like to see in 2026? I heard this from a famous speaker. I follow a lot of Hall of Fame speakers, and one of them said this idea that she does each quarter called weeds, needs, and seeds. So the weeds are What are some of the things I did this quarter that didn't serve me? Maybe it was people, commitments, events, the to-dos that don't make us happy. What can I let go of? What are the new seeds I can plant? What are some of the new things that I can plant that I haven't been doing that might get me personally, professionally, or wherever I want to go? And then the last idea of that is needs. What are some of the needs that I need to shift or change? What do I need to do different? So one of my favorite sayings is that the learning always happens in the valleys. Whether 2025 was your best year or maybe not your best year you've had so far, instead of asking or sharing why it didn't go the way you wanted or what didn't go right, we always have that same opportunity to ask ourselves, what did I learn? How did it make me better? How did it push me? How did it challenge me to be the best version of myself? Thank you.